Somewhere online right now, there's a chart telling you to plant carrots next to tomatoes because they love each other. It's wrong, and it's been wrong for 50 years, and it might be costing you your whole harvest to a bug that chart was supposed to stop. Meanwhile, a handful of pairings that are genuinely proven in real field trials barely ever make it onto the same list. Stick with me. I'll show you exactly which of these garden pairings are backed by real research, which ones are just a story that got repeated until it sounded true, and the handful that can genuinely keep pests out of your garden for good. Here's why this is worth 20 minutes of your time. Losing a crop to pests doesn't just cost you the vegetables. It costs you the entire season you spent growing them, and the money you already spent on seed, soil, and water to get there. Most people respond to that by grabbing whatever companion planting chart they find online and planting accordingly. Carrots by tomatoes, basil for flavor, marigolds around the border for, well, everything. It feels like doing something. Here's the part almost nobody knows. A huge share of that advice traces back to one 1975 book, a collection of garden folklore with no research behind it at all. Not wrong on purpose, just never actually tested. Meanwhile, real agricultural research, the controlled field trial kind, has quietly confirmed a much smaller list of pairings that genuinely work, along with the actual reasons why. Different plants, different mechanisms, and results you can measure. That research isn't hidden or hard to find, either. It's published in agricultural journals, run through universities with extension programs specifically meant to hand this information to home gardeners. It's just never made it onto the same colorful charts as the folklore, because folklore is easier to summarize in one line under a plant's picture. So you end up with two totally different gardens depending on which source you trusted. One built on inherited folklore that might do nothing. One built on what's actually been measured. Most gardeners have never been shown the difference. Think about what a full season of vegetable seed, starter plants, soil amendments, and your own time actually adds up to. Losing even a portion of that to a pest a supposedly protective pairing was never going to stop is a real cost, not a small inconvenience. That's what we're sorting out today. What's real, what's folklore, and exactly how to use the real stuff in your own garden this season. Companion planting itself is genuinely old. Farmers have planted certain crops side by side for generations, long before anyone ran a controlled trial on why it seemed to work. Old-timers didn't need a study. They needed a garden that survived the season, and they passed down whatever actually did that, year after year, by observation alone. The oldest and best documented example is what's called the Three Sisters: corn, beans, and squash, grown together. Corn gives beans something to climb. Beans pull nitrogen into the soil. Squash spreads low and shades out weeds. Indigenous farmers in North America were doing this centuries before modern agriculture had a name for it. The version most people know today, the long list of specific pairings like carrots love tomatoes, comes from a much more recent source. A 1975 book that compiled garden folklore into charts. Genuinely useful reading for garden history. Not a research review, and the book itself contains no scientific citations. That distinction mostly got lost over the decades. Both kinds of advice, the load-bearing agricultural science and the folklore compilation, ended up printed on identical-looking charts, with no way to tell which pairing was proven and which one was just a nice story. Here's a useful tell. Agricultural scientists don't actually use the term companion planting. They call it intercropping or polyculture, and it's been studied in controlled field trials since the 1970s. When you see that language, you're closer to the real research. Garden magazines and seed catalogs picked up the folklore charts decades ago because they were simple, colorful, and easy to print. Nobody along that chain was checking the claims against an actual study. It just kept getting copied forward generation after generation of gardeners, until it looked like settled wisdom instead of an unverified list. So the old way isn't wrong to trust. Some of it is genuinely one of the oldest tested farming methods there is. We just have to be honest about which specific pairings actually belong in that category. Let's go through exactly what's real, starting with the strongest evidence, and then exactly what to skip. Real research on this breaks down into a short list of mechanisms that actually hold up. Trap cropping. beneficial insect support, niche complementary polyculture, and a few specific, provable chemical effects. Everything else is closer to folklore. Start with the three sisters. Measured trials show a land equivalent ratio of 1.2 to 1.4 for that combination. In plain terms, that means 20 to 40% more total yield from the same patch of ground, compared to growing corn, beans, and squash separately. That's not a folk claim. That's a measured, replicated result. Here's why it actually works, and it's worth understanding, not just memorizing. Corn and squash both draw heavily on nitrogen in the soil. Beans pull nitrogen out of the air and fix it into the ground through bacteria living on their roots. Planted together, the beans are quietly feeding the other two the entire season. That's a real, measurable chemical process, not a folk pairing. Next, trap cropping, which is a real and different idea from most companion planting advice. You plant something pests prefer even more than your main crop, positioned to draw them away from it. Blue Hubbard squash planted near your main squash bed measurably pulls squash bugs and vine borers off the plants you actually want to protect, cutting damage 30 to 60% in replicated field trials. The catch with trap cropping, and it's an important one, is that it takes active management. You have to actually monitor the trap crop and deal with the pests gathering on it. Skip that step, and you've just grown a healthier population of the exact bug you were trying to avoid, right next to your garden. One more detail from the research worth knowing. A single trap crop planted alone is weaker than a mix of several. Trials in Finland used Chinese cabbage, marigolds, rapeseed, and sunflower planted together as a diverse trap crop, and it managed a specific beetle pest better than any one of those plants could on its own. Diversity, even in the decoy planting, measurably helps. Third, and this one genuinely surprised researchers, sweet alyssum. A small flowering border plant that doesn't repel anything directly. Instead, it attracts the insects that eat your pests for you. A University of California study planted sweet alyssum along lettuce fields specifically to test this. Researchers found it attracted enough parasitic wasps, green lacewings, and hoverflies that aphid populations dropped substantially, without spraying anything at all. One ladybug larva alone eats 200 to 300 aphids as it grows, and a single planted border can pull those predators in from fields nearly 50 feet away. Later trials measured that effect directly. 50 to 70% lower aphid density, 2 to 4 times more beneficial insects showing up. And that's with alyssum making up as little as 10% of the planted bed area. A small border, not a major commitment of space. Here's the actual mechanism, and it's a genuinely clever one. Predator insects like lacewings and parasitic wasps need 2 different things to survive. Protein, which they get from eating your pests, and carbohydrates, from nectar, to fuel them while they're out hunting. Sweet alyssum's tiny flowers are an easy, constant nectar source, so it keeps those predators living and breeding right next to your vegetables instead of passing through once and leaving. Fourth, marigolds, but specifically for one job. French marigolds produce a compound called alpha-terthionyl in their roots, which is genuinely toxic to root knot nematodes, microscopic worms that damage plant roots underground. Measured trials show a 40 to 60% reduction in nematode populations, but only after 8 to 12 weeks of the marigolds actively growing in that soil first. Here's the part that matters, and where most companion planting charts overreach. That same marigold effect does not reliably carry over to pests that live above ground, on the leaves, like aphids or spider mites. The underground chemistry doesn't travel through the air the same way. Some controlled trials do show a real, measurable drop in certain pests like whiteflies when marigolds are planted early alongside a crop, through a different compound entirely. But other broad field trials on above-ground pests found no significant difference at all. The honest answer is that marigolds for above-ground pests are genuinely mixed evidence, not a clean yes. If nobody ever separated the real research from the folklore for you before, that's exactly why this channel exists. Subscribe if you want the next one. Now the debunked side, starting with the famous one. Carrots love tomatoes has never held up under actual testing. It's folklore, not agricultural science, and planting them together does nothing measurable for either crop's pest resistance. Mint gets recommended constantly as a pest deterrent. University trials specifically looking for that chemical deterrent effect found none. What mint actually does is outcompete nearby plants for space and water, which people mistake for pest control. Onions and garlic supposedly keeping rodents away is another one that sounds plausible and has never actually been demonstrated in a controlled trial. Sometimes claimed, never shown. Even the claim that basil improves a nearby tomato's flavor, which isn't about pests but shows up on every same chart, has no controlled trial behind it either. No measured flavor difference has ever been demonstrated. Sunflowers suppressing weeds around them through their own natural chemicals is another one worth a second look. It genuinely happens in sterile pot trials in a lab. In actual garden soil, with real soil biology going on, that same effect mostly disappears. What works in a controlled pot doesn't always survive contact with a real backyard. One more, and this one's a warning rather than a myth. Black walnut trees release a compound called juglone that genuinely poisons nearby plants. Tomatoes and peppers planted within 60 to 80 feet of a mature black walnut can be damaged or killed by it. If you've got one nearby, that's worth knowing before you plant anything sensitive close to it. So here's the real list. 3 sisters for yield. Trap crops for active pest management. Sweet alyssum for aphids through beneficial insects. Marigolds for nematodes specifically, given time to work. Everything else on those popular charts, treat as a nice story until someone shows you the trial. Let's cover what you're probably wondering. I've got a small garden. Is any of this worth doing at that scale? Yes, sweet alyssum and marigolds especially. Both work as border plants and don't need much space, and the beneficial insect effect from alyssum has been measured working from a fairly small planted area. Does using these methods mean I can skip pesticides entirely? Not necessarily, especially with a heavy existing infestation. These are genuinely effective preventive and supportive tools, not guaranteed replacements for every situation. Think of them as reducing how often you need anything stronger, not eliminating the need completely. How long before I actually see results? Marigolds against nematodes need 8 to 12 weeks of active growth before the effect shows up. Sweet alyssum's beneficial insect effect builds over a season as the flowers establish and predator populations grow. None of this is instant. Want a trap crop? Just give pests a bigger population near my garden? That's the real risk if you plant one and ignore it. A trap crop needs active management, meaning you check it and remove or treat the pests gathering there. Planted and forgotten, it can genuinely make things worse. Does the type of marigold matter? Yes. French marigolds specifically are the variety with measured nematode-suppressing roots. Other marigold types are mostly ornamental and haven't shown the same effect in trials. I've been using a companion planting chart for years. Should I throw it out? Not entirely. Keep what's on this list and treat anything else on it as unproven rather than false. Some of it may still turn out to help through mechanisms nobody's tested yet. The honest position is not yet shown, not definitely useless. Where do I actually get sweet alyssum or the right marigolds? Both are inexpensive and common at almost any garden center or nursery, usually sold as seedlings in spring alongside other bedding flowers. Look specifically for French marigold on the tag. Does any of this apply to houseplants? Or is it strictly outdoor garden advice? This is specifically outdoor research, done in real fields and garden beds. Indoor houseplant pests are a different situation entirely, without the same insect populations around to attract or manage, so don't expect the same results moving any of this indoors. Will planting sweet alyssum and marigolds attract bees too? Yes, genuinely, and that's a good thing for the rest of your garden. Both are popular with pollinators as well as the predator insects we're actually after, so you get a second benefit for the same planting. Do I need to replant these every single year? Sweet alyssum is typically grown as an annual and replanted each season, though it self-seeds readily in a lot of climates. French marigolds are also annuals. Neither is a one-time planting you can forget about permanently. Can I actually combine several of these at once, or should I just pick one? Combine them. Nothing about trap cropping, sweet alyssum, marigolds for nematodes, and the three sisters conflicts with any of the others. A well-planned garden using all four at once is genuinely stronger than leaning on just one. Should I just buy ladybugs directly instead of attracting them with plants? Store-bought ladybugs often fly off within a day or two if there's nothing keeping them around, since they're released, not established. Planting something like sweet alyssum gives resident populations an actual reason to stay and breed there, which works better over time than a one-time release. Let's talk about how this fits your specific situation. If you're growing in containers or a small balcony garden, sweet alyssum in a border pot next to your vegetables is genuinely one of the easiest wins here. It needs very little space, and it can still start attracting beneficial insects from a single pot. If you're growing a full vegetable garden for your household, the Three Sisters combination is worth trying specifically for the yield increase, not just pest control, since you get more food from the same ground. If you're specifically trying to avoid chemical pesticides altogether, lean hardest on sweet alyssum and active trap cropping together, since those two address the broadest range of common pests through mechanisms that don't involve spraying anything. If you already know you have a nematode problem, French marigolds are worth planting as a dedicated bed. Root knot nematodes specifically show up as stunted, wilting plants with roots that look knotted or swollen when you pull them up. Given the 8 to 12 week lead time, plant the marigolds the season before you actually need that soil. If you've got a mature black walnut anywhere on your property, map out its distance from your garden beds before you plant tomatoes or peppers this season. 60 to 80 feet is the real danger zone. If this is your first real vegetable garden, start simple. Sweet alyssum borders and skipping the folklore pairings is a genuinely solid, low-effort foundation, without needing to memorize a whole chart of unproven advice. If you're gardening at a larger homestead scale, trap cropping becomes much more worth the management effort, since the labor cost per plant protected drops as your growing area gets bigger. If low maintenance matters most to you, sweet alyssum and marigolds are both genuinely easier than active trap cropping, since they don't require the same hands-on monitoring once they're established. If you're working a shared community garden plot, sweet alyssum along your own border is a genuinely good neighbor move too. The beneficial insects it attracts don't respect property lines, and nearby plots benefit right along with yours. If you're gardening with kids, this is a good chance to teach a real lesson about evidence. Show them the difference between a tested fact and a story that just sounds true. They can watch it happen in real time, as the flowers bring in ladybugs and lacewings over the season. So here's what actually matters, if you remember nothing else. A short, specific list of companion planting claims is genuinely backed by real research. The Three Sisters for yield, trap crops for active pest management, sweet alyssum for aphids, and French marigolds for nematodes specifically. Everything else on the popular charts is folklore that's never actually been tested. The mechanism behind the strongest one, sweet alyssum, isn't repelling anything. It's attracting the beneficial insects that handle the pest problem for you, measured and confirmed in real field trials. This season, plant sweet alyssum as a border, consider French marigolds if you've had nematode trouble, and stop treating the rest of that chart as gospel. Read it as folklore worth testing, not proven fact. And if you try trap cropping, put it on your calendar to actually check it, not just plant it and walk away. That's the old way. Some of it still works. Now you know exactly which parts. If you want more of these, the plain truth about the stuff already in your yard, subscribe. And if this saves your garden from a chart that was never actually tested, a like helps it reach the next person who needs to hear it too. Tell me in the comments, which pairing on your own garden chart are you now going to actually test for yourself? I want to know what people are still trusting out there.